Should you downsize? The honest pros and cons from a relocation expert. I'm Lexie Carducci, your property personal shopper, and I've helped over 700 people find their dream home. Moving home is consistently ranked the third most stressful life event. So I'm here to make the process and decision-making less overwhelming and a more positive experience. So if you're thinking of downsizing, I've got some top tips and things to consider before making that move coming up in this video. Welcome back to the Ideal Home Show YouTube channel, where we share everything home and gardens, from DIY to kitchen cooking, renovations, interior design, trends, product reviews, top tips and advice. Hit that subscribe button to be notified when we drop a new home video for you. So today I'm talking all about downsizing. So if you're considering a move, I've got lots of tips to hopefully make this decision a lot easier and enjoyable. First of all, there are so many reasons for downsizing. And whether it's out of choice or an unfortunate life circumstance, it's important to look at this as a new chapter, your next exciting adventure. So let's start with the positives, I think, and that is cost. Now, according to Really Moving, 25% of UK home movers in 2025 reported that they are buying a property for less than they are selling for. This was in September. Typically, if you're looking to downsize, you'll be paying less to live in your home. For example, your utility bills like gas, water, and electric should theoretically be less as you're living in a smaller space and therefore heating a smaller space. And usually you would be in turn paying less council tax as well as home insurance. It's all those little bits that add up. Again, usually by downsizing, you'd be taking on a smaller mortgage if you have a mortgage. Also, if you've owned your current home for a while, it's very likely increased in value, meaning that by selling, you'd be freeing up equity in your existing home. Maybe that would even leave you with the option of buying your downsized home in cash, mortgage-free, which also makes your offer more attractive in a competitive market and can often be a speedier process with less hassle. And talking of less hassle, generally with a smaller home, there's less maintenance, upkeep, and repairs, and my least favorite hobby, which is cleaning, certainly becomes a simpler task. Having a smaller home may also mean a smaller outside space, or no outside space at all, which is another area to not have to worry about. If you're moving for age or health reasons, then bungalows and lateral apartments offer a much easier solution to live your life without having to navigate stairs. And living with a smaller square footage and potentially less rooms means you may need to declutter, which is actually my favorite reason for moving home. We accumulate so much stuff that is actually quite therapeutic to get rid of, to have a clean out and get rid of it to start anew. This can make for a more minimalist, simplistic lifestyle. And you may even find you make some money after getting rid of furniture, clothes, accessories, and little knickknacks that you no longer need. Goodbye clutter. In fact, there's a whole website called becomingminimalist.com, which does exactly what it says on the tin and champions living minimalistically. Things like living with less anxiety and having a clean and tidy home can often lead to a clean and tidy mind. Downsizing can also give you access to a better, or let's say more trendy and sought after area. Although do be conscious of making sure that that area works for your lifestyle and you're not just buying into the hype and paying the price for being near like amenities or transport and schools that are actually irrelevant to you. We've actually got a video all about choosing the right area for you that goes into choosing a location in more detail. But there are usually 4 main points to consider. That's area versus price versus space versus specification. Now, usually you end up compromising on one of these, and often to tick all the boxes, people may opt to look outside of their preferred area, or they may be priced out of it. Or in this case of downsizing, you are already eliminating the space requirement, which in turn helps tick the other 3 boxes, which is price, specification, and of course, area. This may mean that you're able to move closer to friends and family, be closer to local amenities like shops or parks, and tap into a better lifestyle. If you're downsizing and completely relocating to an unfamiliar area, for example, if retiring by the coast or to the countryside is your dream, then you may consider renting first or spending a long weekend there to live like a local and confirming that you would enjoy all it has to offer before committing. Now, I chat about this in more detail too in that area guide video that I mentioned earlier. Also, moving into a rental keeps you out of a chain, which can often be a downfall or delay of property transactions. So removing that risk can be beneficial in terms of reducing stress and being a preferred seller as well as a preferred buyer in the future.
Looking for appliances you can trust to help you create more than just meals? With KitchenAid, you get more than just great tools. You get a brand that's been supporting home cooks and food lovers for over a century. So whether you're mixing dough, blending smoothies, or experimenting with new recipes, KitchenAid products are built for versatility and for lasting performance. Everything from the iconic stand mixer to blenders and food processors is designed to help you express your creativity and get consistent results every single time. And with new colours like Flutter for 2025, you can add a personal touch to your space while enjoying innovation you can count on. Click the link in the description. KitchenAid. Classic style, endless possibilities.
If age and mobility is a factor and you're considering a solution like retirement living or assisted living or a part exchange, make sure to do your research first to ensure it's the right option for you. So look at things like service charge, additional fees, facilities, and what is actually included. Again, a trial period is often offered in care homes, which can be really beneficial. Now, going back to the very first pro point, which was costs, freeing up additional money from the sale of your property also gives people access to flexible life choices like moving abroad or having a second holiday home or gifting a deposit to assist a child or grandchild to get on the property ladder. It's sounding good, isn't it? In fact, I think I've talked myself into downsizing. But it is important to thoroughly think things through when making any big life change. So let's look at some downsides. Firstly, it can be quite an emotional experience to uproot your entire life that you have been living, especially if it's not through your own choice, and particularly if you've been in your current home for many, many years. But remember what I said right at the beginning of this video, look at this as a fresh start and a new chapter and the first day of the rest of your life. It begins now, right? And that should be super exciting. You've got this. Now, we listed costs as a pro when it comes to hopefully saving money on utilities or releasing equity. However, costs can also be a con of moving home because of the fees that are involved. So according to the Homeowners Alliance, the average cost of moving home in 2024 was £10,519. Obviously, this depends on various factors, but it gives you a little bit of an insight. Now, these costs can be made up of the following. One is stamp duty. That is the big one, isn't it? Now, depending how much you buy your next home for, you will more than likely have to pay stamp duty land tax if you're over the threshold. Two is estate agent fees. Now, the average estate agent fee in the UK is around 1.5%. However, depending who you use, they can vary from anywhere around 1% all the way up to almost 4% in some cases. So it's always a good idea to get 3 valuations to just compare the prices. Now, the average house price in 2025 is around £275,000. So using that as an example, you'd be paying on average £4,125 in estate agent fees. It's always worth negotiating because my general rule of thumb is if you don't ask, you don't get. 3 is surveys and conveyancing fees. Arranging the legal transfer of a property through a solicitor or a conveyancer can cost kind of around £1,000 plus. And then surveys on your new home to check its condition or to highlight any problems can also cost a few £100s or even, again, thousands, depending on what surveys you have done. 4 is often people forget the cost of removals and packing up your home to move. Or maybe you haven't moved home for a while and you've kind of lost track of what it costs because everything is on the rise, isn't it? So if you require help from a professional removal company to help pack up and then transfer your goods to your new home, you could be forking out hundreds of pounds, even thousands of pounds, depending on the services that you require, the size of the home, the amount of trips that they need to do, the distance, and even location, because you always pay more in London, right? And 5, now I know I've listed selling some of your old belongings that you no longer need to make a little bit of extra money as a pro. The downside is that if you can't actually sell them, then you may end up having to pay for a home clearance service or even paying the council to collect the items that you've left behind that you couldn't get rid of. Now, another downside of downsizing, that's a mouthful, is of course the inevitable loss of space. If you once found yourself the host of Christmas festivities with all the family staying under your roof, then that may no longer be a viable option. Or if you have multiple friends or family come and stay for a summer getaway, again, remember to think positively about this. That means in that situation, you no longer have to slave over Christmas cooking, and then summer staycations can now be exploring a different location with friends and family. You get to go away too. But not just being the host home anymore, reducing your home in size can also mean having to get rid of things that mean a lot to you, like certain items of furniture, for example. But again, try and look at this from the perspective that the furniture, that's off to live a new life on its own somewhere else as well. You know, your sofa could tell so many stories, but it's now becoming part of someone else's story. Anytime anyone finds themselves moving home, you are battling with entering the market, and that in itself can be stressful. Juggling that balance of wanting a specific price for your current home, but then also hoping that at the same time you come to sell, there are suitable options on the market to buy. As we know, it can often be a long journey to find your next home. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have the ability to do the process step by step, it can take that pressure off and make the situation less overwhelming. If you can sell your place first and then maybe stay with friends, family, or even rent for a short time whilst you're looking for your next home, it could be a more straightforward and less chaotic transition. Now, according to the Homeowners Alliance Home Owner Survey in 2025, they found that 34% of homeowners that were aged 55 plus who had considered moving in the last 2 years but didn't, they gave a lack of suitable homes as a reason for not moving. And 38% of homeowners 55 plus said that they would prefer a bungalow for their next move, but there happens to be a lack of bungalows in the market. That is also another issue. So there are many little hurdles along the way. There are other options instead of downsizing, like equity release or retirement interest-only mortgages, but please always do your research to carefully consider, again, the pros and cons of these situations and if it's the best option for you. I always remind people and my clients that everyone's property path and their preferences and their priorities and financial situations are so different. So just because one option worked or didn't work for a friend or family member doesn't mean it's right or wrong for you. In summary, don't forget to enjoy the move. For whatever the catalyst is for your move, this is the opportunity to grab life by the whatever and start your next page of life. New home, new you, right? I've been Lexie Carducci, your property personal shopper, property finder, property developer, your property fairy godmother. Please do comment below if you have a tips that you've experienced yourself to share for downsizing, or if you'd like me to answer any other property and house hunting questions. If you've enjoyed this video and found it useful, don't forget to send it on to someone else that might also find it useful, and click that subscribe button for more home content from all of us here at the Ideal Home Show YouTube channel. See you soon.